Hello everyone, good to see you again. This Sunday is the third Sunday of Advent in year C. It's commonly called Rejoice Sunday. Why? Because there are a number of references throughout all of the readings really to joy, not happiness, but joy. In fact, the entrance antiphon is rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Indeed, the Lord is near. And that's the reason for our joy. God is near. God is with us. And that's what we look forward to at Christmas, isn't it? And so there is reason to rejoice. Yeah, sometimes it's not always easy to be happy, but we can always have a joy in our heart, a joy that comes from knowing that we are loved by God, that no matter the situations we find ourselves in, God is present, God is with us, and that's what gives us joy. So you'll see throughout the scriptures for this third Sunday, the theme of joy. So I hope that it will be a week of joy for you. I know here in South Africa, as in many places in the world, the external circumstances make it really difficult for us to be happy, but we can be joyful. We can look for signs of God coming to us, being with us, supporting us, guiding us. And in many ways, that's what the Synod is about, isn't it? That we are a people together, journeying through the ups and downs of life together with one another and together with the Lord. And so, as Pope Francis wrote in his exhortation, Joy of the Gospel, if we are Christians living together with the Lord, if we are faithful to the gospel, we should have a joy within us. Remember, in that exhortation, he talks about sour-faced Christians. If we know and love Jesus Christ, we can't be that. So joy is the theme. Joy is what all Christians should live with. So let's have a look at the readings for this third Sunday of Advent. The first is from the prophet Zephaniah, chapter 3, verses 14 to 18. Perhaps a little bit of context for us. We know that King Josiah, around about 600 years before Jesus, was a reforming king. Why did he focus on that? Why is he known as a reforming king? Because things were so bad. The Hebrew people had given up on living the covenant, being faithful to the commandments of God, worship. They had gone off the path. And this prophet Zephaniah speaks to that situation, reminds them to come back to God, the ways of God. That's what prophets do, don't they? And so in most of his prophecy, in most of this book, he is looking at all the failures. This section is a little bit more positive. And we know that while God can call us back from our sin, he promises us life. He promises us joy and peace and hope in him. And so no matter how far we go away from him, no matter how much we sin, no matter how much evil there is in our living, in our attitudes, God does not want to exclude us from himself forever. He wants to bring us back, to give us the peace of living in and with him. And so that's where this reading for today comes from, for this Sunday of Advent. The psalm is actually taken from Isaiah, not really a psalm. Isaiah chapter 12, verses 2 to 3, 4 and 5 to 6. And the response is actually verse 6, I think. Shout and sing for joy, for great in your midst is the Holy One of Israel. And that's really the theme, isn't it, for Advent. God is in our midst. That's what we're looking for. That's what we need to be alert to. And Isaiah, that is really the prophet of Advent, as well as John the Baptist, the herald of Advent, that's what they speak to, that there should be a recognition of the presence of God, and that's what gives us joy. And then the second reading is taken from St. Paul's letter to the Philippians, chapter 4, verses 4 to 7. And the opening verse of his letter for this third Sunday, the little extract, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. That echoes the entrance antiphon. That's where the entrance antiphon has come from. And it's important that we remember that this is the correct translation. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Not be happy in the Lord. It's rejoice. And if we think that this is a captivity letter of Paul, it's quite amazing that he's saying rejoice. What's a captivity letter? A letter written by St. Paul from prison. And he's reminding us to rejoice in the Lord. And that's why joy is not associated or attached to our external circumstances. Happiness is, but not joy. Paul can be joyful in the midst of his incarceration. He's being prevented from doing what he feels called to do. He must have been really frustrated and negative. And yet there is a joy, and he encourages the Philippians to be joyful as well. To be people that have gratitude for all the things that they have been given. I think gratitude is a really important component or dimension of joy. When we're able to recognize the gifts we have been given, to acknowledge them and to be grateful for them, to be thankful for them, I think that helps our joy, because our focus is not on the negative. It becomes the good things. The good things are what we focus on. Okay. And then the gospel is from Luke's gospel, chapter 3, verse 10 to 18. And here St. John the Baptist really makes his first appearance for us this Advent. We've sort of had hints of it, but now we sort of meet him a little bit more. We get to see him and hear him a little bit more. St. John the Baptist is a towering figure, really, isn't he? We don't hear too much of him later on in the Gospels because he's beheaded, but he starts, if you like, the New Testament for us, doesn't he? He's that link, the bridge between the Old Testament and the New Testament. We get a sense early on here that he is a simple man, bit of a not really caught up with all trappings and things. We know that he wore a camel hair and he ate locusts and honey and that sort of thing. We also know that he he perhaps wasn't always so certain. Remember, later on, he sends some of his disciples to Jesus and asks Jesus, are you the one we've been waiting for? And so, a man who had clearly had doubts. And today, though, Luke presents John as someone who is concerned for social justice. John doesn't just expect us to pray nicely and have nice thoughts. He also expects us to put those into action by sharing. Look, there are three groups that come to John in the wilderness. The multitudes, and so they're not really particularly a religious group or faction or cult or anything like that. They're ordinary people. They come, then the tax collectors, and then the soldiers. Those are interesting groups of people, ordinary people. Tax collectors, we know about them, don't we? Wealthy, corrupt, those sorts of people come to John. And then soldiers. Soldiers in the time of John the Baptist, Jesus, didn't get much pay, but they were armed, of course. And so they would often use their weapons to get things from people, money and food and clothing, and of course crimes against women. And so John talks to those three groups, and he challenges them to look at their actions, okay? To change their actions, to share, to not extort things from people, not to be corrupt. And those three people, those three groups, we would identify in our modern world, wouldn't we? People who use violence and force to get things, people who are corrupt and steal things, and ordinary people like you and me that perhaps now and again forget the poor, forget that we've got to be loving and understanding. So this gospel speaks to us. This gospel talks to us as well. And it reminds us that joy comes from knowing God is present with us. And the presence of God should cause us, should challenge us to look outwards, to share, to give, to act like God is with us. Okay, so those are some thoughts for this third Sunday of Advent in the year C. Of course, for us here in the parish, we will be focusing quite a bit on the Synod Pew questions, this opportunity that we're given to consult and to share and to listen to one another. That is our Advent theme here in the parish. First, listen. First, listen to the Word of God. The Word of God that challenges us, but also the Word of God that comforts us, that brings us deep joy. And hopefully this opportunity to consult and to listen to one another for the Synod will bring us real joy. Joy because we know that God is journeying with us. I look forward to seeing you online or in person. It's really good to be able to celebrate in the midst of these challenges. So join us. It's great to have you. God bless now. Bye-bye.